The most interesting part of a project is the start, right? When it's new, you have this idea, you start making this hypothesis, you pull together these other bits of information and you're starting to create something new, something novel. And you get very excited. This is when you've got lots of momentum. You start to think, oh, how could I test this question, this idea? And you start pulling other people in and they get excited by this new idea as well. And you move along easily at first, right? And then, you start doing the work, you start doing the study and collecting your data, and it's just still exciting, still good fun. You still got momentum. It's still moving along. You start collecting that data. You start building the picture. You start getting what you want, but it slows down a little bit, and then you've got your data, and you have to analyze your data and put it all together, which is still exciting because you want to know the result of all that work that you've done, but it gets a bit slower. And then the slowest part of all is writing it up. And that's what I'm struggling with right now. I've said before, I am a terrible academic, and I can use all sorts of excuses for this. I can use all sorts of excuses for all sorts of things. I teach too much. People keep asking me to create new programs and blah, 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 blah. But the truth of it is I'm just bad at finishing projects. Part of that is, so before this job, I was a research scientist. So that was part of the job. You started your project, you either got your funding or you got a new job and you had a certain period of time to do the lab research in. Then of course you're going to write it up because you're going to go and present it at a conference. You're going to get a paper published, because if you don't do that, you're not going to get another job. Your feet are held to the fire. But when you're in a job where I don't really I do have to publish, but there are no great consequences if I don't. Getting stuff done. Well, as a teacher, that's kind of easy. Like if I have to teach on a Monday, I'm going to get my preparation done. Otherwise, I'm going to look like an idiot on Monday. Easily motivated to do this. If I've been invited to speak at a conference, same. I've got a deadline. I've got a clear day and date and time where I've got to turn up prepared and do a good job. So there's intrinsic motivation in these things, whereas doing the extra stuff, and the further into the periphery you get, the more into the extras. Like an exam I have to pass to progress the year, a piece of coursework I have to finish and hand in to progress the year. Those are the main things, but the extra bits, the things that you'd like to do to fill out your CV, to do those things that are interesting, well, they start off being interesting, but they can be very hard to get finished because there's no real deadline or consequence. And setting personal deadlines most of the time is meaningless, right? Because if you don't miss a personal deadline, who cares other than you personally? What am I actually trying to do? Well, funnily enough, my last full paper was published shortly before I started making regular weekly YouTube videos on anatomy and vlogs. Might not be causative, much as might be a correlation. But anyway, it's been a long time since I've published any papers, and in recent years I have been doing research, and I have been presenting the data at conferences and talking to people about this sort of thing, and have been working with groups of people, but I'm not finishing, and that's what I've got to do. I've got at least 2, potentially 4 projects that I should write up. And the other problem is that I'm trained in basic science research, cells, DNA, RNA, that sort of thing. And what I'm doing now is medical education research, which I am by no means an expert in. And the reason I've been doing medical education research is because I've had genuine questions. I want to know why this is a thing, or what students think, or whether this is actually useful and worth our time or not. So we've been doing that. We've been collecting data. But I guess I'm not confident in presenting my findings because I'm not an expert. But that said, I've already been presenting my findings at conferences and it kind of went okay. It wasn't too scary. So the current problem then is actually writing this stuff up. It shouldn't be that hard. Research papers, they're the same format as scientific research papers. They're only, maybe 4,000 words. How hard could it be? and yet they're so easy to drop. You start it, but it's so easy to forget about it, to not pick it up. Other things get in the way. You procrastinate, like making vlogs about it instead of just writing the paper. Anyway, how can I make sure that I write up these research papers and in a timely manner, not like sometime within the next 10 years? Often, so normally I'd say, if you want to get something done, create a new habit, and a daily habit maybe. So you get a bit done every day until it's done. And you make it a habit, and then it's very difficult to stop doing that habit, so you become very productive. But this ain't going to work. Like if I'm writing research papers, I need blocks of time, maybe a couple of hours at a time, because they've got to be written properly. Your introduction, your statements have got to be supported by references, your materials and methods has got to be explicit. You've got to spend time thinking about presenting your results and your conclusions and your discussion. It's not something you can just do 30 minutes of each day. You need a big block of time, and I already do so many things every day. I can't reliably add anything else like that. So I will fit it into my week, fit it into those gaps that I get, and maybe I'll block out chunks of time in my calendar with writing times. Well, we do this with marking and that sort of thing, but marking exam papers has an explicit deadline. This doesn't, which means that higher priority things like students asking, oh, can I come and have a tutorial about this or go through my exam paper, that's going to take higher priority and just knock the writing out of my calendar. My other reason for doing this is because, well, it's not just my research, I've done this with other people, so I owe it to them to publish a paper with them, so I'll write it up and share it with them and we'll review it and agree it, but to get this paper published so that they benefit, because papers are important to career progression, they're important on your CV, they're important to getting jobs elsewhere. So whilst it's not a thing you have to do, it's definitely a thing that you should do. So I'm talking as a teaching academic, right? If you're a research academic, you're wondering, what are you talking about? Because it's part of your day job. It used to be part of my day job. No, it's not. The thing that does work well for me in these situations is reward. If I reward myself for doing a thing, that often helps because it gives me something to look forward to, something I really want. It's like, well, if you submit this paper to a journal, you can then reward yourself with this. But I don't know about you, but I can't think of anything that I want. But it's common, isn't it, to struggle to finish things, to complete things, and we kind of need to find our own personal mechanism, our own personal method of completing projects, of getting to the end. Something's got to push us to the end or pull us to the end. Making videos every week is not too bad because it's kind of I'm in control, nothing gets in the way. So I have an idea, put the notes together, do the thing, publish it. That's another problem I have with papers is, when is it finished? When have I finished writing? But I could add more, I could reference it better, I could take things out, I could add more detail, I could improve the images. It just never seems to be finished. And then little things get in the way, bureaucracy, like the particular format the journal wants, or going through the university processes, the bureaucracy that stands in the way of pretty much everything these days to getting it in, or paying for it, or open access. There's all these little things at the end that just kind of like stall it. You can pretty much write a paper and then it gets stuck somewhere, or maybe you just get afraid of actually submitting it and getting that peer review, getting that peer feedback telling you that all your work is rubbish and why have you submitted this. It's never like that. They're usually really nice. But clearly I need to form some sort of new writing habit, just like I have the habit of making videos and podcasts. Not making vlogs, but actually writing. Well, I still need to make vlogs and stuff, you know what I mean. But I need to make a new habit, but I need something to motivate me. The smiles on my collaborators' faces when I say, paper got accepted. If you've got any bright ideas, let me know. Maybe I just need to lock myself away in a virtual reality where I won't be disturbed, and I can just get on with it. Now I'm just I'm just distracting myself again, aren't I? Although this is quite a nice way to work.